Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today. My name is Craig DeLuz, and I'm coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, from the belly of the beast in Sacramento, California. And normally I do not do this program by myself, but today, well, normally my good friend Mike is not going to be able to be here with me today, so it's just going to be us. But we're going to have a good time nonetheless, because I know what's going to happen. You're going to want to comment, because we got a lot to talk about. I mean, think about it. We didn't do a show on Friday, and, Kamala Harris, I'm sorry, I keep calling her Kamala. I want to properly pronounce her name, Kamala Harris. So if I'm going to try and get this right, but as I had noted to a friend of mine, or to Mike actually, my brother's her maiden name is Harris. Her first name, she doesn't go by the name, but her first name is actually Kamala, and she goes by Kamala. She pronounces it as Kamala. So every single time I talk about Kamala, I have a tendency, at least the first time I say her name, to mispronounce it or pronounce it with the "a" instead of the So I will try to get it right. You guys don't have to necessarily feel obligated to. I'm just trying to get it right. Anyway, all that having been said, she had a closing night of the convention speech, and so we can talk a little bit about that. But anyway, a lot of good stuff, a lot of fun stuff. RFK endorsed Donald Trump. That's a big one that no one in the media is talking about. Gotta wonder why. Anyway, beyond all of that, though, we're going to talk a lot about, where things are at in the campaign and where things are going to be going. So anyway, if you're watching us live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, on Rumble, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, want to encourage you guys, go ahead and comment, and I'll be following them, and we'll respond to your comments as appropriate, or as we can. Anyway, all that having been said, first thing that we have to do is what we do, and that's pay the bills, which starts with, a quick shout out to our sponsors. So we're going to start off by talking about Hitman Industries. If you're looking to rebarrel your current rifle, or maybe you want to do a brand new build. If you have purchased an AR in the last 5 years, chances are you already have a barrel from Hitman Industries. They have rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase today, including Glock barrels, by the way. And if you are a first responder and have never purchased from them before, you can get a discount. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working behind enemy lines to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out today at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. And then finally, if you want the best in concealed carry tactical holsters, look no place else other than Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And by the way, if you go there and you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, you're going to get a discount. So check them out today at hogholsters.com. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, you're looking for tactical gear, think no other place than uscombatgear.com. They've got the best when it comes to outdoor gear, tactical gear, rain weather, cold weather, hot weather, whether you're looking for a hat, whether you're looking for boots. Trust me, they have all things tactical except the gun. Just go to uscombatgear.com. All right, let's get into today's stories. And we've talked and we've covered a lot the fact that, that Vice President Harris is not talking policy at all. Absolutely, positively refuses to sit down and do an interview. Absolutely, positively will not do a press conference. The closest that she has come was doing a brief announcement about her economic plan the Friday before the convention. And, let's just say that whole thing just really kind of blew up in her face. All that having been said, I think they've pretty much decided we're not talking policy anymore. We're not going to do policy anymore. And in fact, according to the Democrats, you guys really don't want to hear about policy. Policy is it's not your bag, baby.
Concern about her doing that could potentially trip her up and give Trump some ammunition. In fact, a lot of those Democrats I spoke to today said avoid those policy prescriptions.
I haven't heard from many voters looking for white papers and policy papers. What they want to hear is what her vision is for this country.
The American people don't vote on policy prescriptions.
I actually think the way the American people think about this choice is less about the minutia of policy and more about the direction of the country, number one. And secondly, about the person. Character, it does matter.
And Jerry Connolly, the congressman from Virginia there, I asked him more about this. He said, remember what Elizabeth Warren did when she ran back in 2020? She had a white paper for every policy position under the sun. And what happened? She collapsed in the primary. So there's a belief that perhaps you put more ideas on paper, that's a bad idea. But the question is, voters want to see some of those ideas.
Right.
Maybe, but if you go with the vibes, it's a vibes election.
Right.
See that? See, what they're doing is they're calling it a vibe election. And by a vibe election, it means, does it make you feel good? Do you feel happy? Because, see, the problem with actually going on the issues is that she's going to actually tell people what it is that she's going to do. And if once people know what she's going to do, they're going to find out it's what she's already been doing. And that's the problem that we're running into here is, their attitude, quite frankly, is, well, whatever. We're going to do what we're going to do, and we really don't have to. Here, this is a story over from Fox News. It says, as pressure grows for Vice President Kamala Harris to face the press, attendees at the Democratic National Convention said they're confident she'll give interviews when she's ready. Let's give some time, Heather Pirawoski. Wow, that's awfully close to Piwowarski. I wonder if she's any relation to Mike. Anyway, Heather Pirawoski. Anyway, yeah, that's how I pronounced Mike's name at first when I met him. Anyway, a delegate from Indiana said, I think just be patient because it's all going to come. Really, is it? Harris has yet to give a sit-down interview or do a formal news conference since becoming the presumptive Democratic nominee, should say now, over a month ago. In the same period, former President Trump has fielded dozens of questions at press conferences and formal interviews. Louisiana delegate Tyron Trung, I guess I'd say Trung, said he thinks Harris has other priorities at the moment. Quote, right now, our main concern is uniting the party, Trung told Fox News Digital at the DNC early this week. And once that's done, I think she's going to come out and speak to the people. Now, first of all, that's kind of what the convention was supposed to do. So if you haven't united the party by now, they're not going to be united. And what's really going to start to cause a problem within the Democratic Party is, well, it's either going to cause a problem with there's not going to be a problem with the Democratic Party or with her or with voters. Because we already seen she came out with the idea of price controls and giving away goodies, right? And that went over like a lead balloon. People were not happy. In fact, you had Republican and Democrats alike were panning her. In fact, it was so bad that there were Democrats. Let me see. Do I have this? Here you go. There are some reports that it was so bad that Democrats are actually going to the media and they're quietly saying, yeah, her thing for price controls, yeah, it's not going to get through Congress. We're not going to do that. We're not that stupid. Yeah, they're not going to say it like that, but that's what they mean. They know it's a bad idea. They saw what happened in Venezuela when they did it. They saw what happened well, they probably didn't because they're probably too young, but when Nixon tried something similar to that. It's a bad idea. Whenever the government gets into price fixing and controlling markets, manipulating markets, that's when economies crash and burn. Have we not learned from what happened back in 2008? That was an example of what happens when the government tries to get into the housing market, much like Kamala Harris is trying to do right now. Look, if you want to do something, here's the way in which you help the markets. This is the way in which you help bring down prices to where they are affordable. Get out of the way. Get out of the way of home builders. Let them build homes. Get out of the way of banks and the way they do loans. Let them do loans. You just get out of the way. Get out of the way and they will do just fine. They will hit a sweet spot because guess what? Home builders want to sell homes. Mortgage companies want to do mortgages, and when they do those mortgages, they want to get their money back. They're not interested in foreclosing on a house. But when you get in there and you start manipulating it, you start getting people into homes that they can't afford. Some people who just flat out are not in a position where they can afford a home. And some people wind up getting more home, or at least borrowing more money for a home than they really needed to borrow. Why? Because you manipulated the market. It made it easier for them to do it. And then they wind up, well, it doesn't work. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting off on a tangent. The point is, folks, Democrats want to tell you that it doesn't really matter, that policy doesn't matter. Policy is what you do. When you are in government, policy is what matters. Right? I know what you're going. Here's the deal, folks. I want to know what you're going to do, and how I know what you're going to do is by taking a look at what you did. Right? If my question, say for example, is, man, what are we going to do to address illegal immigration? What examples do I have? Well, let's see. Under Kamala Harris, we saw record numbers of people flow into our country from all around the world. Probably she's not going to be good on that issue. Probably her policy in that area is an epic failure. How did Donald Trump do in that area? Oh, you mean we had record low numbers of people coming across our border since we've been measuring it? I mean, we're talking an all-time low. That probably means he's going to do pretty good on that issue. Okay, check Trump. What are we going to do about inflation? Man, prices are awfully high. Well, let's see. Under Kamala Harris, the Harris-Biden plan, inflation hit 41-year highs. Interest rates almost tripled. She's probably not going to do very good on that one, is she? How did Donald Trump do? Well, let's see. He took us from being energy dependent to being energy independent, which brought down the price of fuel and energy, which brought down the cost of everything. Household income went up for the first time in like 40 years under his administration. Well, what did they do under Harris-Biden? Oh, they went down again significantly. Looks like Donald Trump's going to win that one. You could go through it policy by policy. And the only option that she has is to divorce herself from the very policies that the Biden-Harris administration have pushed. That's why she won't do policy. That's why they don't want to talk policy, because right now, in particular, in the issue areas that are very, very important to people, the issues that are most important, according to just about every poll, we're talking crime, we're talking the border, we're talking border and immigration, we're talking inflation in the economy. Biden-Harris, or in this case, Harris-Walz policy will be an epic failure. How do we know it will be an epic failure? Because it's already been an epic failure. In fact, we don't have to look back very far, because it is an epic failure. Because guess what? Harris-Walz policy is Biden-Harris policy. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And, it is, once again, it is very, very frustrating to see. It's frustrating because they don't want to talk about it. And the media, quite frankly, is letting them get away with it. The media is flat out letting them get away with it. Another thing, for example, now we talked at the beginning of the show. I had mentioned to you that RFK dropped out of the race and he endorsed Donald Trump. Right now, in the midst of it, he made it a point to talk about how, there are a lot of things that he disagreed with Donald Trump on, but he wanted to make it a point to share the fact that when it came to how they handled the election, and here's the thing, folks, I know I'm probably pointing out what I've already said to you before, but you guys all know this. The Democratic Party hijacked the nomination. They decided not simply that Joe Biden was too old and decrepit and senile to run for re-election. They decided that, most definitely. But they also decided that, but the most important part of that wasn't that he wasn't able to govern. They're not concerned with whether or not he's actually capable of governing. No, what they're concerned about is that they're going to lose. And that's all they really care about. They just don't want to lose to Donald Trump. And so they supplanted the candidate that, even though, by the way, the primary process was a sham, and that's the reason why RFK dropped out of the Democratic Party and ran as an independent, because they literally wanted to make it so that nobody could compete with Joe Biden in the primaries, despite the fact that, I mean, about 20% of the overall electorate, little under that, was saying that they would have supported RFK. Anyway, all that having been said, they wanted to make sure he didn't have a shot. They clearly, and so that's why he got out. Then they proceeded to make sure and fight him at every turn. He got all the signatures that he needed to get on the ballot in various different states, and they went out of their way and spent millions of dollars in legal fees to keep him from getting on the ballot. Now imagine that. Here's someone who's done the, I won't call it the impossible, but definitely the improbable, in order to get on the ballot as a third-party candidate, and now you're trying to say we don't want to give the people an opportunity to vote for him? Yeah. Remember, these are the folks that are saving democracy. So they made sure that he couldn't get on the ballot in a bunch of states, made him spend millions, got him to the point where there was just no way he could get on. He was on in enough states where he could actually win the election, and he would only serve as a spoiler. So he decided, you know what? He said, I made a commitment. He said, if it ever came to the point where I was only going to be a spoiler, he said, I'll have to drop out of the race and put my support behind someone else. And so that's what he wound up doing. He actually dropped out of the race and put his support behind Donald Trump. Now, he made it a point to talk about how much, there's a bunch of stuff that he disagrees with Donald Trump on. I get that. There's a lot of stuff that I disagree with Donald Trump on. Anyway, all that having been said, he made it a point to say, look, if we're really going to save democracy, then perhaps we shouldn't be, removing the candidate that people actually voted for and replace them with somebody that nobody voted for. One would think that would just be kind of it would kind of make sense, but that's what actually happened, and that's what he actually wanted to come out and speak. That's what he actually wanted to come out and speak against. So I want to play a little bit of the interview that RFK did on Fox News, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it on the flip side.
And joining us now is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Shannon, thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's get this out of the way up front. You and President Trump not always fans of each other. He posted on social media earlier this year, he's one of the most liberal lunatics ever to run for office. A phony radical left fool whose poll numbers are terrible and getting worse. The New Yorker said just a couple of weeks ago this: in a recent text exchange, Kennedy told one person that Trump was a terrible human being, the worst president ever and barely human. He is probably a sociopath. Now, I haven't read your text, so you can speak to that, but how did you get from that position to Friday night?
Well, it became clear to me that I did not have a path to victory. 16 months of censorship, of not being able to get on any network really except for Fox. And I had, in fact, when Ross Perot ran, in the 10 months that he ran, he had 34 appearances on the networks. I had 2 appearances in 16 months. So I was blocked out from the networks. I was blocked out from the debate. I had no path to victory. President Trump had been reaching out to me. And I talked to him a few hours after the assassination attempt, and we had a long conversation by phone. I then had 2 extensive meetings, and there were issues, the broad issues that were most important to me, the ones that brought me into the campaign, which was ending the Ukraine war, ending the censorship, and protecting children's health. We're all reforming our food supply, all the things that we need to do to make our children healthy again. Those are all things that President Trump also wanted to work on. And he invited me to form a unity government. We agreed that we'd be able to continue to criticize each other on issues on which we don't agree. But these issues are so important in their way of unifying our country. We need in this country to reach a point where we love our children more than we hate each other.
It's a good unifying theme that I think a lot of people could get around. It's how we get there. That's always the devil is in the details. Have you all negotiated over or talked about a cabinet position, another position within a Trump?
I didn't want to get too much into the weeds on that, but the point that he was talking about here was, number one, the state of our politics. And the state of our politics is this. Number one, we need to learn how to we got to get along. Just because someone disagrees with you does not make them evil, does not make them the enemy. But what he saw here was he didn't have to agree with Donald Trump on everything, but he could find places where he could work with Donald Trump. Now, one of the things that he noted when he did his press conference was he reached out to Trump and he reached out to Harris, and Harris wouldn't respond. They wouldn't get back to him. Donald Trump found a way and found a place where they could work together without either one of them having to change the issues that were important to them. Harris, though, doesn't want to talk policy because she wants to talk vibe. And the problem is that you can't talk when you talk vibe. It's a little hard when you've basically stolen a nomination and you've colluded with the mainstream media. You've colluded with the Democratic Party leadership and all of the backroom dealers and the donors to basically steal a nomination. Because I will say it one more time, and we've said it a billion times on this program. Not a single primary voter has voted for Kamala Harris. Not a single one. And she is now the Democratic Party nominee of a party. She's the nominee of the party that says they're trying to save democracy. That fought to keep someone who had 17 to 20% of poll numbers showed that's what he had, which is significantly higher within the Democratic Party. This is the guy who at least deserved to be on a stage. They fought to keep him off the stage in the debates. They fought to keep him off the ballot so that people couldn't vote for him. And then they fought to get Joe Biden off there as soon as they thought he would lose. Anyway, he knows that the Democratic Party is not about democracy. He knows that democracy is the furthest thing from their minds. Their goal is control. That's all they're really interested in, is making you live by their values. That's why they won't talk about policy, because they know you won't like what they have to say when you start talking about policy. Because you know what? They're going to do stuff like this. Like the Biden-Harris administration telling kindergartners that the earth is going to flood. That's right. This being reported by the Washington Free Beacon. I'll pull it up here. Here we go. Bam. Biden-Harris administration warns kindergartners climate change will leave entire U.S. cities underwater. NASA's Climate Kids webpage offers fun environment-related educational activities, films and videos, games for children in kindergarten. It also warns children that the world is undergoing cataclysmic warming, sea levels are rising, global ice coverage is diminishing, and their future may very well be doomed. Climate Kids proclaims that the cost of fossil fuels is pollution, the destruction of landscapes and the natural habitats, oil spills in the ocean, and nasty fracking chemicals in the ground, end quote. While the biggest problem of all is global warming. The website separately shows an image of what it says may soon occur in the United States Eastern Seaboard with calamitous sea level rise covering entire cities, including New Orleans and Miami. The website fails to include a timeline for such an event. Now, why is the timeline so important? Because, one, if you assume what they're telling you about the trends is true, when will this happen? Hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's if the trend doesn't change. But they don't tell you that. because they want kids to be scared. They want them to believe that the world is about to end so that they can't make rational decisions. They won't make rational decisions. They'll just be scared as hell. And they'll grow up scared. You know, we wonder why our kids have anxiety. Let me tell you why our kids have anxiety. Because of stuff like that. Because you tell them we're growing up in a racist world where people are going around schools and they're hunting down kids and where the police are trying to shoot people of color and you know, all of these various different things. When you tell them, you know, the party that has joy, they're the ones that are telling you that the police are out to get you, the Republicans are out to get you, that white people are out to get you, and if you're white, if you're, you know, your straight people are out to get you, Christian people are out to get you, everyone's out to get you. The world is going to be destroyed through climate change, but we have joy. And they wonder why our kids have anxiety. It's not a mystery to me. I don't understand why it's so lost on some of these folks, but that's exactly what they believe. And for some reason, they seem to think that they can just, no big deal. No worries. No worries. We can tell them that if you let them be in charge, the world will be destroyed. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, I digress. But, you know, they're not the only ones that are doing stuff like that. And it's... All right. You know, I'm just going to move on to the next story because I just want you to understand this is an example of what... I'm just going to tell you, if you want to know what's going to happen, what would Tim Walz and Kamala Harris do? Well, I'll tell you what they'll do. They'll do what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have done. I mean, come on now. It's not a secret. They are machine politicians. Joe Biden is a machine politician. Kamala Harris is a machine politician. What that means is they're plug and play. Different face, same policies. They're going to do, and they're, by the way, they're either not going to tell you what they're going to do. Kamala Harris is either not going to tell you, or she's going to lie to you. Because think about this. People are like, well, she doesn't believe in fracking anymore. Oh yeah? When did she say that? Or she's not against fracking anymore. When did she say that? Because the only statements that have ever been put out there from her mouth was that she wanted to ban fracking. Well, Kamala Harris doesn't want to make it. Doesn't want to decriminalize illegal border crossings. When did she say that? Because the only thing we have is her saying it should be decriminalized. Kamala Harris doesn't want to end private health care. Once again, when did she say that? Because the only public statements we have is she wanted to do away with private health insurance. This is the reason why the interviews are so important. And when I say interviews, I don't mean the sit down, oh, what color? That's a very nice blouse you have on. You're so brave for wearing that blouse. No, it needs to be, we need to talk about policy. She needs to be challenged on her positions. If they're the same, why does she believe that they're the same? Why does she believe they should stay the same? Especially since those policies currently aren't working. And if she's changed them, why has she changed them? What's the point behind changing them? What does she now know that she didn't know when she took those positions? Other than the fact that the American people don't agree with her. Other than the fact that, we tried that and it doesn't work. Now, I'll tell you what. If she actually admitted and said, you know, we've tried that. We just tried that. I tried that with Joe and it didn't work. So, you know, we're going to do something different. I'll tell you what. Be a lot of people would have a lot more respect for her. It would be a legitimate pivot, a legitimate turn. But she's not going to do that because she's not going to, because she would be throwing the Democratic Party under the bus. And she ain't doing that because they need her. She needs them. She did not raise $500 million. They raised $500 million. Or rather, Donald Trump raised $500 million for it because, you know, they just don't want to have Trump. And that's probably because, well, of their white fragility. Wait, what? No. Yeah, the queen of white fragility got caught plagiarizing people of color. Now, mind you, she's always like, look, if you are ever going to, you know, use the work of people of color, and this is what she always tells other white people who work in this space. If you use the work of people of color, make sure, no matter how small their contribution, make sure that you give them credit. Make sure that they get all the due credit for the work that they have done. Well, she didn't do that. Once again, being reported by the Washington Free Beacon, Robin DiAngelo plagiarized minority scholars, complaint alleges. Robin DiAngelo, the best-selling author of White Fragility, is a big believer in citing minorities. In an accountability statement on her website, which makes repeated reference to her PhD, DiAngelo, 67, tells fellow white people that they should always cite and give credit to the work of BIPOC people who have informed your thinking. It doesn't matter if their contribution is just a few words when you use a phrase or idea you got from a BIPOC person, DiAngelo says, referring to Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, credit them. But the white diversity trainer has not always taken her own advice. According to a complaint filed last week with the University of Washington, where DiAngelo received her PhD in multicultural education, she plagiarized several scholars, including 2 minorities, in her doctoral thesis. The 2004 dissertation, Whiteness and Racial Dialogue, a discourse analysis, lifts 2 paragraphs from an Asian American professor, Northeastern University's Thomas Nakayama, and his co-author, Robert Krizik, without proper attribution, omitting quotation marks and in-text citations. Well, that just goes to show you once again, not everybody practices what they preach. I don't know how you pull an entire paragraph and make that mistake. She's, especially since she's someone who talks about making sure that you credit people, you would think that she would have gotten that right. But, then according to them, on the proximity to whiteness, Asians in many cases aren't in their eyes. This is not me speaking. This is them speaking. Well, they're not the same. They're people of color, but they're not really people of color. You know how they do it. Anyway, let's see how she handles that. She's not the first person in this community, in this era, in this business, in this excuse me, what am I looking at? In this industry, who has been guilty of plagiarism. So we'll see how it all pans out. All right, folks, that brings us around to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today. As I said before, today is day 37. No interviews, no real questions asked or answered. Well, there have been a couple asked, just none answered. But there was one reporter who actually asked Kamala a question. And let's just say, according to the Babylon Bee, that was easy for me to say. According to the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can count on, reporter who asked Kamala a question, charged with a hate crime. Yeah, because how dare you ask a person of color a real question? Because we know that this is a vibe election, and this is not about her policy papers, but this is about the people and the celebrities that you can hook them up with. This also, according to the Babylon Bee, Democrats encourage supporters to go to the polls by telling them Beyonce will be there. That's right. That's how smart they think y'all are. Anyway, but that's okay. Just in case that doesn't work, they're making sure that the election is going to be fair, free, and fair. And to do so, they had the Attorney General come out and do a little bit of a press conference. And once again, as reported by the Babylon Bee, Attorney General reminds Americans that questioning the 2024 election is illegal unless Trump wins. Because we're allowed to question outcome of elections if and only if Donald Trump wins. Anyway, fun stuff. All right, folks, that's going to bring us to the end of the program. But before we go, let's give another quick shout out to our sponsors, Hitman Industries. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Get rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. We got the California Republican Assembly. If you want to be a part of California's future today, got to join CRA. And then go to hogholsters.com. Get your hog holster today using the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word. Help America wear guns. And then finally, if you're looking for anything tactical, just go to U.S. Combat. Let me clarify. Anything tactical except the gun. Just go to uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Until then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. And if you get a chance, make sure to send a few downrange. Talk to you later.